welcome to Theory of Anything, Episode 2, co-hosted by myself, Andy, otherwise known as Paps or Dad, and my two beloved sons in whom I am well pleased, Ford and Devon.
Hello.
Welcome to you both. How are you?
I'm good.
Good?
Yeah, doing really well. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Welcome.
Yeah.
Good to hear you both.
Glad to be here.
So we're here again today to explore another three main topics or themes, which we will each in turn introduce and open up for discussion.
Exciting.
So anything that it's really grabbing our attention in any area of media, tech, or faith is our directive. So that's our remit we will set out for ourselves. So if this is the first time that you've listened to us, you probably should know that our shared Christian faith is likely to permeate all of our chatter.
That's a nice word.
But yeah, permeate. I like that word. Hopefully in a way, though, that will not exclude anyone from enjoying what we have to share, because that's what we're all about. So it's just a part of who we are, and it influences everything about us and what interests us. Okay, gentlemen, so before we get started properly, is there anything anyone wants to quickly pick up on or add to or correct from our last episode?
I would like to butt in because I've heard a lot, and I knew that this was an issue before, but with many hours of work I could not fix the issue. But last episode was very, very quiet. As in, like, just the audio was really low. You had to have it at 100%. But hopefully this episode should be fine, and there should be lots of less background noise, and we should have better production, basically.
We're getting there, are we?
Yeah, we're getting there. Second time to charm, hopefully.
Yeah. Well done. Our technical people are on it. That's good.
That's me.
and we'll give credit to somebody else at the end of the show who's done a lot of work to help make these podcasts happen. Yeah, we'll get to that later. Anything else anybody wanted to add?
One other thing. We talked about, or it was mentioned at least in the last show, where you said, I think it was you, I'm afraid,
it was me.
that in 1K of information there's 100 bytes, but actually it's 1024.
Thank you.
Apparently, very much.
I am embarrassed to say that was me.
We've been fact-checked and ashamed.
Yeah. Mathematics isn't a precise science.
No,
is it not?
It's all about feelings.
It's more art, really.
We don't deal with facts anymore.
Yeah. One thing I did want to ask, though, also, is so last week we did a bit on New Year's resolutions.
Yes,
and
we did.
One of you, I can't remember which, probably both, said that only 8% last more than a week.
Yeah.
I wanted to catch up on you guys and see.
Oh, no.
Did either of you manage?
I've looked at BSL books on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
If that counts.
Yeah, good. That's the first step. Yeah.
I haven't bought anything, but that's all I've done.
You're scouting out the ground to see how it goes. Yeah.
I'm going to say that counts. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
good.
And
I'm doing okay. I'm not perfect at my 6-minute diary that I introduced and talked to you about. Doing great with my Daily Audio Bible and the Daily Audio Bible Chronological. Going well. Really, I'm up to date with that. I listen to both episodes every day. But the 6-minute diary, you would think would be easy. 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening. But sometimes I just haven't got that habit formed yet where you just do it without thinking. And I go, oh, no, I didn't do it this morning. Or no, I'm already in bed, the lights off, and I haven't done it before going to bed. So, but I'm not giving up. I'm carrying on. Yeah.
28 days to form a habit, they say.
It does. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for picking us up and making us accountable. But since you didn't commit to doing anything, it's easy for you, isn't it?
No, I said I'd read the Bible every day.
Oh, yes. Did that work?
Oh, yeah.
Did that work out?
No, not really. So I guess, in a sense, 0% of people keep up their habits for the first week.
Okay. 0% of these three,
Yeah, that's no good, is it?
It's never too late to start again.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
Just because you fell off your bike once, it doesn't mean you can't get back on it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Exactly.
I would like to say I do read my Bible. It's just I'm just gonna put that out there.
Okay, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, gentlemen. Well, shall we get started then? Thank you for our pickups on last week's episode, and we'll go straight into
Devon's segment subject.
So, something that's been on my mind a lot and on my wife's mind.
Oh. Yes, you better introduce your wife because you mentioned her name.
She's not here right now, but yes.
Yeah, no, I don't mean introduce her.
My wife is Beck, or Becca, or Rebecca, whatever you want.
Yeah. You mentioned her by name last week, but we didn't clarify who it was you were talking about.
It's true. Yes, that is my.
Now the listener knows. Yeah.
My brand new wife.
Brand new. Yeah.
What's been on our mind anyway a lot recently, and it's been the new Witcher Netflix series. Now I've talked to Ford quite a bit about it, trying to get him to watch it, but he's stubborn and he's not.
The name is enough to put some off. Yeah,
definitely. Right. It's not The Witch. It's Witcher.
No.
So
Witcher.
It's fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Although it is very, very fantastical, because it's based obviously off the Witcher games, which is based off the Witcher books. It's like a Polish type thing. It's very, very good. I enjoyed the games and I enjoyed the series a lot. But I wanted to ask you guys if you think that we've had too much of the fantasy type series and films, or do you think we can't get too much of a good thing?
Right.
Because obviously we've got things like Lord of the Rings, which some people say perfected it, and we've got like Game of Thrones for the series. And things like that, but I wanted to get your guys' opinion on if the more the better, or you should have left it.
I don't know. I think everything can be good, or any concept can be good if it's done well. And I think there's always going to be an audience, or an audience for a fantasy TV show. I think so. I can't imagine it getting old. Well, I can't imagine it getting old to the point where it just doesn't work anymore, you know?
Yes. But does it work for you?
I have not seen it, have I? So
I mean, in general, I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I do like the gritty world building of some of the fantasy series you get out there. So that's really good. Although, counterpoint to my last point, you don't really get any sort of zombie TV show. Well, I suppose hang on, you do, don't you?
You do, but they dropped off a lot. You got quite a lot of zombie films and TV shows.
Yes,
when The Walking Dead was getting popular.
Yeah. I think these things do come in phases, don't
like
they?
The vampire thing as well. Yeah. So I don't know if you think that's the same thing with fantasy as well, or is it just a genre that will never go away?
I think fantasy's vague enough that it can stick, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Who can I ask? Because I'm not familiar with Witcher. I've seen it on the Netflix menu, but and thought, wonder what that's all about.
Yeah.
But not had time or inclination to click on it. Who is this genre aimed at? Do you think? What's the target audience for this fantasy?
I think it's aimed at young men.
Yeah.
Who play video games such as obviously Witcher or other role-playing fantasy games.
Fantasy, yeah.
That's not even excluding like board games as well, like Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of thing. That tends to be the more younger male audience. I would say.
Yeah.
They seem to be more interested in fantasy, from what I can see.
Because my brain is fading now. I've got a blockage here, but there is another well-known, famous. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I've heard is aimed at teenage girls particularly. Yeah, because the protagonist, the hero is Buffy, who's a young woman. So it seemed to appeal more to the teenage girl audience. So you can't say that about Witcher and other fantasy. Am I mixing my genres here?
I think one is like I don't know. It's hard to kind of it's kind of hard to pick and choose because obviously you got vampirism and like werewolves and that kind of thing of Twilight, which is technically
Twilight,
which is kind of like technically fantasy.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not focusing really on like the mystery and superpowers of these beasts. It's focusing on a high school crush type thing.
Right.
If that makes sense. I think that's my take anyway.
It's Twilight I was thinking of. They're vampires, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the series I was thinking. Not Buffy. Buffy's a bit further back in time, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, my apologies, listener. Yeah, for my ignorance. Yeah, I don't know if has there been a glut of them then, do you think, the fantasy genre, TV and games?
What do you think?
I'm not aware of a overpopulation in the market. Saturation, yeah. But it might be just because it's not something that draws me in. I mean, I know games, again, I'm showing my age a bit, Skyrim and things like that, they're fantasy genre, aren't they? And it's not a game that's really grabbed me. Sword play, although I like a bit of sword play on a film, but I don't know if I enjoy sword play in a game. I don't mind watching other people, but I'm not so keen on playing sword play games. Okay.
I think I only asked this because I've noticed that in a lot of discussions around the Witcher series, they've tried to say that it's replacing Game of Thrones. So obviously Game of Thrones ended quite abruptly, quite recently, and not very well in a lot of people's opinions.
Very much so, yes.
Which may be for a discussion of the future.
I've heard other people say contrary to that.
So have I, somehow. So people are saying that it's been replacing Game of Thrones, where I think it's obviously very different, but obviously it's still fantasy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why everyone's not bringing it into the same thing. Maybe why I am as well. I don't know.
There was, from a Christian perspective, there was a lot of concern about Game of Thrones, wasn't there? And I know we're not specifically talking about Game of Thrones now. Maybe we will another time. But I do know lots of Christians who enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, but you have to watch it. It's from somebody who can take mature themes, obviously. Is Witcher of a similar taste? Similar level of violence and
definitely.
Negative,
I would say that it's more like comedic and a little bit lighter.
Okay,
but it's still got a lot of that kind of thing in it.
Definitely 18 then, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the truth.
Is there anything in it that maybe you didn't open the subject up for more of a scrutiny of that particular series, more of a general conversation? But is there anything in Witcher that redeems it thematically? Like within Game of Thrones universe, there was talk of, or there was an element that you could say was, what's the phrase I'm looking for? The one true God and the
Lord of Light.
The Lord of Light,
and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I know, there was speculation about whether that reflects some kind of Christian element to it, but there was reasons for that not to be considered the case as well.
Not particularly within
the Lord of Light.
Not particularly within The Witcher. I mean, the main character kills monsters, so that's a good thing. But apart from that, no, it's very It's very I do this for money, and money's my main goal, and that kind of thing.
I think my main concern about any of those, I'm probably talking too much now, I should let Ford speak, would be that it creates an unhealthy interest in areas of fiction that leads into areas of reality. That would be my only concern.
What do you mean?
Depends on the audience and who it's really aimed at. If it's a mature audience in age, then we're opening up another can of worms, because I know many Christians who have no problem at all with the likes of Harry Potter, but there are others who have great problems with Harry Potter because of the connections to witchcraft. and the interest it sort of nurtured within the followers of Harry Potter that went on to real exploration into real witchcraft in the real world, not just as a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
And there have been cases of that, I could talk more on that, but we're not going to do that now. Whether there's any risk of that with Witcher and other fantasy series like that?
Yeah, I think there always is with most fantasies, apart from maybe like The Hobbit, which is very, very PG.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so with The Witcher as well. There is the opportunity for people to take it to the next level in reality. But obviously, it's just meant for the screen, and it's just meant for some entertainment.
Okay,
that's for sure.
Okay,
yeah,
absolutely. Go on forward.
If I may ask a question about the actual show itself, how does Henry Cavill do as the
I think he does really well.
The dude.
Yeah. Henry Cavill, known as Superman,
yes.
he plays Geralt of Rivia, who's the main character, the protagonist of The Witcher, and he does really, really well. Which I think, just a side note of why I think that, it's quite hard to play a character who supposedly has no emotions, but still play them interestingly, make them interesting.
Right.
It does a very good job.
The thing is, I know. Well, I from the pictures, it seems like the character from the games is very much older. He has, a beard and he's scruffy. He's got big scars everywhere, but that's not very Henry Cavill, is it?
Yeah.
Or does that not factor? It does not factor in very much.
I don't think it factors in very much. I don't think the guy in the games is actually that old either.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's more in depth. I think you have to go play it yourself. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. It will be interesting for listener to send us an email to theoryofanything@hotmail.com if you've got views on that or any other fantasy genre, game or light entertainment format.
Indeed.
And see what others think about it. But I think the key question was, has it overran its course? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And do you feel it has?
No.
Okay. There's still more room for it.
A lot of people do say yes.
Okay. People are beginning to suspect it might have run its course. Okay.
I would say no, except I haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
maybe that says more than it should.
I mean, if you were an enthusiast for the fantasy genre, then you're always going to want more, aren't you? But if you're a person who likes a variety of entertainment genres, then probably you're saying, "Oh, can't we have a bit more sci-fi, or can't we have a bit more something else?" or a bit more action.
So much time and day.
Yeah. And as primarily a sci-fi enthusiast, I probably wouldn't say I'd noticed a huge deluge of fantasy genre.
Fancy words.
Yeah. Trying to sound intelligent and more intelligent than I am. Yeah. Thank you, Devon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm sure that will stir some conversation and thought amongst many people if they hear this. Yeah.
Paps segment. Subject.
Come to my segment now.
And what do you have to share with us today?
Okay, well, my passion or my key interest at the moment is in technology and artificial intelligence. I came across an article and I'd like to read it. It's not long. It's a quick, brief article, and it might surprise you. It's an article on the Engadget website written by Steve Dent, and it was published on the 6th of January this year, 2020. And this is what it reads. I've edited a few little bits out for the benefit of time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. BlackBerry and Amazon team up to make connected cars more secure.
Cool.
There's a big difference between hacking a light bulb and a 2-ton vehicle. The more connected cars get, the more we'll need to depend on high-quality security. Yeah. BlackBerry, which is more into cars than smartphones these days, is addressing that issue with a new connected vehicle software platform based on its QNX operating system. By tapping the Internet of Things tech from Amazon's Web Services, it'll let car manufacturers build AI apps and access vehicle sensor data for connected electric and autonomous cars. The system will allow automakers to run a common software platform for vehicle systems like engine controllers, vehicle trackers, and digital cockpits. At the same time, it'll also use Amazon's Web Services technology to let automakers access vehicle sensor data, build apps, and create machine learning models using vehicle data. BlackBerry has already jumped into the vehicle security in a big way, offering its Jarvis system to help automakers spot bugs that could be exploited by hackers. Vehicles are rapidly becoming very complex, with things like personal assistance and the Internet of Things, also known as IoT, features that can detect when you arrive home and activate your heating, for instance. That's good, isn't it? Electric vehicles might also become an integrated part of home and grid backups, requiring complex software to control everything. As such, they'll become a mighty tempting hacking target. As it stands now, many connected home and Internet of Things products have very wonky security. As such, BlackBerry and AWS, that's Amazon Web Services, are trying to address that issue with connected cars, where the consequences of an attack are much greater. That's the end of the written article. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. It's an interesting thought on two levels, really, for me. That it's great to hear BlackBerry's name being talked about again. As you know, before I became an Apple addict, I was a BlackBerry addict.
Yes.
So I like my soft fruits. For not that apples are soft fruit, are they? But anyway, my fruit-based technology. Yeah, so it's interesting that BlackBerry have gone this route and are connecting with Amazon.
Yeah.
To provide an essential service, really. Obviously, the whole concept of driverless vehicles is a contentious one, to say the least. I'm personally excited, a bit nervous about it, but excited about the prospect of it. I think a lot of people will be very reluctant to let a robot, not that there's going to be an actual robot sat in your driver's seat, but when the steering wheel is removed from cars, I think people will become it will be a very different mindset that allows you to get into a vehicle and press go.
May I stop you right there and ask, why do you think it's a good idea?
I think
that's going to put thousands of people out of their jobs, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, potentially, the more work you do into this kind of thing, gets more jobs in research and development, manufacturing, design, all sorts. So it's taking work from bus drivers and taxi drivers, but it's adding jobs elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
Yes, but I bet there's a lot more bus drivers than there are scientists or computer programmers and that sort of thing.
Engineers and that kind of. I don't know. There's a lot of people who work on these things, and that's just for one car. So obviously I don't know the numbers. I can't say, but
I think you could say that about every evolution of technology. I mean, when mass-produced clothing became a thing, you could say that about the textile industry. Thousands of people were put out of work. You know, every evolution brings with it new opportunity and
takes others,
and others go by the wayside. You know, I don't think that's a reason not to do it. my main reason for being enthusiastic for automated cars is because I believe that robots will do a better job of it than humans.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I mean, the statistics are that 1 million people a year are killed on public roads across the planet, and far more than that, obviously seriously injured. Now, okay, say a robot's only 95% effective at driving a car, but that's 95% of 1 million, so 950 odd thousand. My maths has proven to not be very good in the past, but
we'll correct it next week.
Who'll be alive that weren't alive because we allowed robots to do the job that we have proven not to be able to do. You know, time and time again, we've shown ourselves unable to control vehicles sufficiently good enough. So I think it will allow more mobility to a whole new group of people who currently cannot use private transport to get around, like the young and the elderly, who would be prohibited from using private transport. There are lots of positives, but I'm sure there others can identify negatives. But the jobs thing, I don't think is a priority on my list of reasons not to do it. The hacking thing is important because obviously
if everything's connected,
if somebody could connect to the system and tell every vehicle on the roads to make a sharp left turn, no matter where you are, then you're in big trouble, aren't we? So
or even reprogramming one destination on one computer, you've got a kidnapper right there, haven't you?
Yeah.
I suppose so.
But it'll do good for in many different ways. If every vehicle knew where every other vehicle was, then there'd be a lot less traffic jams. I do think you've mentioned two areas: the mass transit of goods, lorries, such, and also public transport, as in buses and taxis. They'll probably be the first to go automated. We already have trains that drive themselves.
Yeah.
You know, a pilot runs of autonomous vehicles in this country and in other countries abroad.
Automation in airplanes have been coming for ages. I mean, the job of a pilot now is to take off, press a button, wait for some hours, then land again. They don't actually do anything because it's just all autopilot once you're actually up to it.
Let's hope our one listener isn't a pilot, because I think we just lost him.
Yeah, I found that an interesting article on the two fronts. Really, it allows us to have this conversation about automated vehicles, but also the inclusion of BlackBerry. I'm excited by that.
I think BlackBerry should just stop. Just go away.
No, I thought they had.
They're trying,
I thought they did. I thought they got bust.
But
they're
see,
trying too hard.
They were and still are, and they still do produce mobile phones.
Yeah. I
was only looking at one the other day. If I wasn't so integrated with the Apple's framework, if you like, I would have considered it. But they were mostly known for their security. You see, you know, in the early days of smartphones, BlackBerry software was the most secure.
Yeah.
So they're leading edge on that, and it's good that
they were good phones, but just they fell behind way too much.
Yes. Yeah.
So if they can do well, obviously in the other industries, and go for it. But
that's the unseen tech, isn't it? The unseen tech of these new systems that are going to have to be secure.
One thing I like about these AI cars, they look very futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
They got these neon lights and no glass, and it's great.
Yeah.
I'm all into that.
You should have seen Dyson's car before it got decommissioned.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
It's coming. It's going to happen. It's the next step, isn't it? It's got to happen. But how easy it will be to transition is another question. Not just in terms of if every car was instantly overnight automated, fine. But we're going to have cars that are and cars that aren't on the same roads.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the other hurdle is the psychological hurdle of us as passengers being willing to trust our lives to a machine.
I think that would be gradual, but if the tech is there, then it will happen.
Yeah.
It would get manual driving cars will just get phased out.
Yeah.
I think, and you don't really have much of a choice 1 or 2 generations down the road.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
Down the road, if you will. Yeah.
Mm.
But then you get the iRobot thing where you're driving along a motorway and then all of a sudden the big bad
lorry
guy
turns on,
robot,
yeah.
and Will Smith has to do an action scene. So
Yeah.
and no one wants that. So
Do they not? Sounds pretty cool.
FYI, I've just looked up the Dyson car and it just looks like a vacuum cleaner
What?
in the shape of a car.
Really? Yeah.
I'm not into it. I'm sorry.
The actual design was never published.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not. It's not public domain.
It's a shame.
Okay.
Yeah, Dyson employees only.
Oh,
Oh, right. Oh,
so
wow.
so you could get us an inside look.
Well, I'll get sacked, but yeah.
That's an artistic impression, is it?
Yes, exactly.
Looking at, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wondered if everybody that sat inside it is having their hair dried at the same time.
I
See
think
all their hair
yes,
blowing
most
inside the
most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've probably said enough about that, so shall we move on to the next topic?
Yeah.
Forwards. Segment. Subject.
So I wanted to talk about a game because last episode we promised we would, and
Yeah.
you guys dropped the ball severely, so I've got to grab one.
Sorry.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah,
you were going to talk about this, so you can't.
Oh no!
Can't talk about 2 games.
And mine was kind of a game.
Too much.
It was a game, yeah.
I guess so. Oh, does that mean I don't have to talk about this?
No, you talk about it. It's funny.
Yeah, right, okay. Right, no, I wanted to talk about. I was looking through the Steam store the other day, and I saw this game, and it just made me cringe. Essentially, it's called House Flipper. It's a really weird one because it's a first-person game.
Yeah.
Devon knows already. It's a first-person game where you essentially go into a property, clean it, do it up, and then sell it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a lot worse than that because you start off essentially in a dinky little shed because you have no money, so it's all about getting more money. You have a little laptop in there and you turn it on or whatever, and you have to do little jobs first. You got to do little quests, as they call it. They send you around people's houses to fix them up after, for example, like a uni student has absolutely trashed this person's house, so you have to go in there. The ridiculous thing is that you're going around and you have to click on. It's absolutely mullered, the house. You have to click on every piece of rubbish. I kid not.
Yeah.
If there's a pile of newspaper, right, you'll probably click on that and it will get rid of the lot. But every bottle or something, you have to click on it. And once you finish with that, then you have to get your the mop out. And it has a percentage rating. You've got to get every bit of dirt. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen this before you even saw it. I've seen this before as well, quite a while ago, and it's just it's people seem to enjoy it though.
I know, that's the thing. That's what drives me. It's insane because you have to get 100% on the cleaning before you can move on to the next bit or whatever, and it's almost impossible to find 100% of it. It's mad.
Isn't that the challenge, though?
Yeah, well, it's just work. I mean, if you're going to do this, just do it.
But
Your house.
then you can choose to buy better interior and tech for the house, and that increases the value of the house when you flip it. So
you're jumping the gun here because you're still doing the quests first. You're still doing other people's jobs.
Maybe I just saw it down the road then.
Yeah. Well, and almost every building, almost every room is missing a radiator, so you have to install one of those. And it's not just click, it's installed. You have to pipe it up and all this.
Oh, wow.
If you want to put a switch in, you have to put the wires in individually and screw them down.
I thought you'd love that sort of game for.
Well, I like. Thing is,
You've been a practical man.
For a game, it's just crazy. It's madness.
Work for fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you get enough money, you get like $3,000 for doing that job or whatever, and then you got to get at least $23,000 or something. So you got to do so many of these quests.
Oh.
Then you finally manage to buy a house, and then of course you need money to do it up and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
It's madness.
It's really good.
Is Devon? Have you played this game?
I've not played this. I've watched
No, but you've
highlights,
seen
which
it.
is maybe
Okay.
why I think it's better than it actually is. Because I've seen the highlights of it.
That's
But you can-
frustrating.
You
Yeah.
can spend hours on hours on it. You buy this house, and you flip it, and you get money, and you buy a new house, and you have to start the whole process all over
Yeah,
again.
it's progression.
Do you end up in a mansion? Do you think? At the end?
Yeah,
Oh
essentially.
wow! Oh, that's
Something-
the goal. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's the goal, but yeah, you
Just
want
the
to get
bigger the
money.
better,
So.
basically. More money.
Yeah. Oh, and all the time, once you've bought your own house and you're doing it up in order to sell it, you have these potential buyers. They some voice comes over the screen, and you got to they say, oh, I could really do with an office, FYI. So you're like, okay, I'll better make you an office, and it's sort of thing. Somehow, this game got 9 out of 10 on Steam.
It's good.
It became the
So it's
bestseller,
people.
or a
Some
bestseller.
people.
Yeah, some people must really love it because it's madness. You can. There's a little feature you can get Walter White's house, from Breaking Bad.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
It's something.
That'd be quite cool. I can clear all the drugs off the.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
5,000.
After the chem lab. Yeah.
Gotta empty out thousands of pounds from the radiator vent or whatever it is.
exactly.
Air vent.
Yeah.
I got a little review here. It says, this is the most addictive game I have ever played. Every single detail down to each single speck of dust is added. My experience was absolutely amazing. This game powers the imagination with an amount of architecture added within the game.
It's like hardcore Sims.
Yes, that sounds like it.
Yeah, but only the buying of it from or the house making.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining that go back to the question I asked Devon at the beginning of who is this game aimed at? And
exactly.
I can imagine some greasy t-shirt wearing slob, for lack of a better word, sat on his fast food carton-strewn sofa with litter all around him, playing house flipper.
Yeah, it's mad. If you're so interested in cleaning a house and doing it up, just do it in real life.
Yeah,
honestly.
and that's what was going to be my point. I wonder if it encourages people to have a tidier home in the real world.
Interesting.
You're not getting it, guys. You're not getting it.
I'm not getting it. You're right.
It's not about cleaning up. It's about spending money and earning money. No one's going to pay you to clean up your own house. Unfortunately, not going to pay you £3,000 to clean up your own house. So that's why the game is more enjoyable than doing it in real life.
But
Well,
you
making fake money.
Yeah.
What else?
I see the attraction.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay. You see, I imagine, because I saw from the show notes that you were going to talk about House Flipper, so I did YouTube a little bit.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. And I thought you were going to come on and say, wow, this game's amazing.
Oh, no.
But Devon is the one who's endorsing it, and you're the one who's going, what on earth is this about?
I just don't know how someone came to it in a board meeting or whatever and said, I know what we need right now. It's a game where you...
Tidying up game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an indie game, isn't it? So it's
It is.
not made by a huge company at all. It's a little indie game, and I think
The quality looked really good from what I
it's
saw.
really good.
Yeah. But I will say, way back in time. That's what I'm here for, isn't it? To reminisce.
Yes.
It's
Our
and to look
resident
forward.
oldie.
I feel like the past and the future are my genre, my areas of
Just not now.
Yeah, just not so much now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on now. The way back when I first started work, and my main job was a gardener, and I was mowing grass for a living mostly, and I imagined this game where you pushed the lawnmower up and down the screen to cut the grass, and it would tell you a percentage of how much grass you cut. So it reminds me of that. Oh no, I've missed 0.2% of the grass. Where have I missed the grass? You know,
You should have made that game.
Look round the lawn with your lawnmower. Yeah. Wow. There you go. Maybe you should have done. Yeah. It sounds like the equivalence of that. Where is that last piece of dust? Yeah.
It sounds absolutely maddening.
In my gardening lawn mowing game, you'd have lots of obstacles and things like that to, garden furniture to dodge and stuff and not damage. maybe a pet running across the lawn and stuff like that, you know.
Wow, yeah.
Or a young child.
Oh, gosh.
That's the 18 rated.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, that's kind of
version. Anyway, sorry, I interrupt your house flipper.
No, I think that's all I have to say. I was just in awe and stunned.
Were you shocked? Were you shocked? Yeah.
This is even a thing.
Yeah, maybe if you played it, you'll keep good house at home. Yeah. Unexpected consequences. It rubs off in the real world.
Yeah, maybe.
Which kind of does connect back to the Witcher fantasy genre thing.
Oh wow, it's all connected.
Oh, yeah.
Spooky.
No, I think
very good.
I think in reality, people who like this game, they come home from work and then log on and work for another 8 hours probably, and then go to bed and then they go back to work again.
Right.
It's essentially what this game is, you know, spending your free time working.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's not though. It's just clicking. You're not actually getting up and walking around and carrying stuff. You're just clicking.
It sounds amazingly mind-numbing.
That's fair.
The tone of your voice is staggering. How much you hate the concept of this game. How much time have you spent playing it for?
I did a lot of research. I would say that's where it's come from.
So you're judging it without even playing it. That's what you're saying.
Yes, wholeheartedly. That's how we roll
Really?
around
You
here.
haven't played it?
How can I?
I thought you downloaded it on Steam. You haven't paid for it then?
No, my sister has it. So our sister.
Does she play it?
Yeah, no, I think she does. Yeah. So she won't like me for this then.
Wow. Does she enjoy it?
Well, let's just say there must be a certain type of person who
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, gentlemen, well done. That's interesting. Lighter theme to talk about.
Yes.
And now it's time for Random Chatting.
Okay, gentlemen. So now we come to the part where we discuss randomly or not so randomly the challenge that we set ourselves last week. Can anybody remember what we were told to go home and do?
No.
Hey?
You told us that we had to, or else we had to go and watch Ex Machina.
Yes, actually, I'm not sure that I can take the credit or blame for that because what Devon did say.
Yeah,
I just the blame. It was something I was excited to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Share the blame. As long as it's not me, I'm fine.
So who wants to start with their thoughts? Did we all watch the film again?
Yeah.
Good.
I thought we were supposed to watch Lion King.
Oh.
I wrote down a bunch of notes.
We must pre-warn listeners that there might be some spoilers in this conversation.
Spoiler warning.
But it's like 6 years old, so.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Who wants to start? Any thoughts? I've got quite a few thoughts on my page to share.
I feel like first off, intro it a little bit.
Yeah, we need to explain the plot.
All right then. Do you want me to do that?
If you like.
You're good at talking, aren't you? Go on.
There are only really 4 main characters, but primarily 3 actually. We have the main character of Nathan, who is a very wealthy, multi-millionaire businessman who's created a artificial intelligent humanoid called Ava, and he has invited an employee of his to his isolated residence and research facility to assess Ava's ability and let me just see to decide whether she truly is artificially intelligent. I want to come back to that phrase in a moment.
That's Caleb, by the way.
Yeah, Caleb. Is the young man employee who's come along to interview Ava and work out whether she is she really a conscious machine, or is she just a robot that's been programmed to say the right things. That's the brief thing of it. Things don't go well in the end, but we'll come on to that in a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. There is another character called Koyoko. Did you catch the name of the other robot? Yeah. Koyoko. I thought it was Koyoko, but maybe you're right.
You're right.
Who is another robot who
spoilers.
I think she's actually more of an important role in the film than you realise when you first think about it. Then. Okay, so that's the plot basically. Who wants to speak first?
Yes, I'd like to say yes, she is AI. Then that's it.
What?
Okay.
No, I'm joking. No, I really like this film. You have to be careful though if you're a bit sensitive because it is very rude and crude. So, there's that.
Well, there's a little bit, yeah, but it's robot nudity. Does that count?
Yes, it does
They're
count.
actually people. It's not actually robots.
And
I wouldn't say there's a lot. I mean, there's no actual.
you wouldn't watch it with your mother. That's all I'm going to say.
There's one scene that's quite gory as well.
At the end.
It's like towards the middle-ish actually.
Oh yes.
Yeah, this with Caleb, and he's basically looking into the mirror, not knowing if he's AI or not, or if he's a robot or not. And yeah.
I found that quite interesting. I liked the character of Caleb, but I couldn't always tell exactly what he's thinking or why he's doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I get it's supposed to be sort of a mind mash for him, and he's like, "Oh no, what's this going on now?" But I feel like it would have worked better in a medium of like a book or something. Because
how do you mean? Have you got an example?
Well, like that bit where he decides to cut himself open to see if he's human or not. I mean, I don't get how he got to that place. There didn't seem to be a.
Well, I was straight after he found out that Kyoko was a robot, and he thought that she wasn't. So like, oh, if she is, then I could be as well.
He's just discovered, hasn't he, the truth behind Nathan's research.
Yeah.
And all the failed examples, led up to Ava.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts to doubt his own humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was he brought there, or was he programmed to come to? Yeah.
What, and all his memories were fake or something, some such.
I'm thinking that perhaps.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you don't think it was the case that he is actually a robot?
I think he was so convinced by Ava's artificial conscious machine. I'd rather use that than artificial, because let's face it, we do already have artificial intelligence. We have the I wrote it down. AI versus AC, I've written as a heading. Artificial consciousness artificial or machine consciousness is different from AI. We already have that in the algorithms that are able to learn from the ongoing interactions with us. Our phones do it, our Echo devices, our Google smart devices, all the other listening machines that we have are learning from us all the time. So that isn't artificial intelligence, it's the algorithms that are learning all the time, isn't it? But that's very different to artificial consciousness, and that's what this is about.
It is,
yeah.
So
Whether is she a new form of life is the question, isn't it? And as a new form of life, does she have the same rights as any other form of life?
They don't touch so much on that, really.
Well, the line I wrote was, this is another quote from the film, "What will happen to me if I fail your test?
Yes.
Will it be bad? Will I be switched off if I don't function as well as I'm supposed to? Do you have anyone who tests you and might switch you off? Then why do I?"
Oh, well read, by the way.
Ava, I tried to put some feeling into that.
Okay.
It was a moving scene, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was yes.
Moving, and it's a good question. It's a very good question. If she is a conscious machine, then it's a very important question. Who has the right to switch her off? I looked also. I'm sorry, I don't want to dominate, but I'm excited by this. I wanted to mention, if you're interested in this, there's a heavy reading on Wikipedia. If you look if you Wikipedia artificial consciousness, there's a lot of stuff in that page, but it does give you some good examples in fiction. The key one I was expecting to see is Data from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Data, his whole
character arc.
Yeah, character arc. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is all about him.
His emotions.
Struggling with his sentient existence and whether and his desire to become fully human. And that reminded me then of the story of Pinocchio, of course, the ancient story of Pinocchio. So there's some connections there between Data and Pinocchio. Yeah. I'm sure many people have mentioned and noticed that before, but it's just worth mentioning now. So so this artificial consciousness that is a step from being a machine that can cleverly answer and adapt and learn to being a new form of life. And I think from the fictional film that we see in Ex Machina, the character Ava shows anyway, just by the way she reacts, how she has learnt from the humans that she interacted with how to get what she wants. I think Nathan says, I wrote down another quote, what was the real test? To escape, she would have to use self-awareness, imagination, manipulation, sexuality, empathy, and she did. She used all of those. That's true AI. I mean, they refer to AI, but I wouldn't like to use the word AI. AC is what I prefer. Artificial consciousness. The test was a success.
Not air conditioning, then.
No, that's right. AC unit, yeah.
Okay.
Now, before I hand over to anybody else, 2 more things I wanted to say. What does Ava whisper to Kyoko in that final scene where before Kyoko gets attacked? They whisper something to each other. It's a moment of intimacy. I don't know what they whispered. She whispers to her, but it was just an interesting thought that came to me. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then it was obvious that Nathan hadn't programmed Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, had he, into Ava's existence. You know, the 3 laws of robotics?
Yeah.
Well, if we're taking Isaac Asimov's world, the whole shtick to that is that once they manage to break those laws, or at least when they have true consciousness, they are able to choose when to break the laws or not, as the case may be. So if someone's trying to create a C, not a new car, they wouldn't want those laws anyway. That was
exactly what I thought.
Yeah. Oh, is that what you're going to say?
I think he had employed those laws. He would have done, but the fact that she could break them proves that they don't apply to an artificially conscious machine, do they? They only apply to a robot or artificial intelligence.
Yeah, once they have to obey, they're not.
Yeah.
They're bound then, aren't they?
Yeah. She's learned from her creator how to get what she wanted.
Well, that's what I wondered by the end of the film, because like you said with the whispering thing, I feel like she was the master manipulator. They've mentioned about how do you test a chess machine, not by playing chess. Well, I think she was very much a chess machine, doing anything and everything that she could to get out.
Mm-hmm.
When she whispered to the Chinese robot, she must have said something like "kill Nathan" or whatever. And then she got another pawn under her.
Yes, yeah.
Control.
Kyoko was under her control, wasn't she?
Yeah, after that point. So I don't think she had any feelings for Caleb, because once she used him, once she got what she wanted out of him, she locked him away.
Mm-hmm.
So why would she not have any feelings if she had a consciousness? For Caleb.
Well, just because she's conscious doesn't mean she has feelings.
Well, it depends what you mean by conscience.
She could manipulate, couldn't she? She knew that her way out was through Caleb by getting him on board.
Even artificial intelligence can manipulate.
Yeah, well, not if it's obeying the 3 laws of robotics.
Well, no, but that's not actually a thing, though, is it? I mean, artificial intelligence, like, I don't know, as we're talking about chess, that can use Muse to try and trick you into doing a certain thing, into a trap. That's manipulation. That's in artificial intelligence right now.
in that regard, I feel a lot like she was learning essentially from the two examples she had with Nathan and Caleb being liars and manipulators. I think she picked up those traits and abilities from them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's right.
If she was a product of her father or whatever, the creator, then those, I feel like it's kind of like inherited.
Yeah, there's a storyline in Star Trek with good data and bad data, and I'd have to go back and revisit that. Data meets his brother, and I've forgotten what Data's brother's called.
Oh, it's a weird name, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's a good version and a bad version. The main Data's good version, but his brothers are all the bad things about their creator, So before Devon has more of a say, there was another article that I was sent regarding this because somebody was suggested I looked at this clip on YouTube. It was a clip from This Morning TV show with Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, was on, I think, fairly recently, and they had a guest called Sophia, which is an artificial humanoid created by David Hansen. And in his interview, they're asked, Holly Willoughby asks, does he think that she would ever have the ability to harm humans? And this is David Hansen's response: if we raise them among humans and give them the best values, then they will learn respect and love in the broadest sense. And I thought to myself, how naive is that? By raising them with humans is going to give them a good example. Have you seen humans? They're not the best example, are they? And that's exactly what's happened in this film. She was aware of how ruthless Nathan could be to achieve his goal by destroying any previous models that didn't.
I think not even that. We see obviously in the film that Ava gets her mind from Blue Book, the search engine.
Yeah.
So Nathan said
it's essentially Google, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So that he turned on every phone, every camera, and just fed it all straight into Ava's mind.
Yeah.
So that's where she actually
the
got
best
her
and the worst of humanity.
From.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she's not only seen what Nathan can do, but what every evil person ever can do to try and get what they want to do, what they want to achieve.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah.
But
any other thoughts?
I've got. It's not really about the AI, but it's about the actual film itself.
Okay.
I thought it was really, really well put together in the way that Nathan is portrayed as the bad guy, when in reality he's just a guy trying to troubleshoot his machine that he's made and make a better machine. It's like, I'm making a toaster. I'm trying to make my toaster better, so I'm going to test it. Yeah. But he's in the film, it makes you feel like he's the bad guy. He's entrapped this person.
It's a bit of a Tony Stark kind of douchebag, isn't he? But in reality,
he's not actually doing anything wrong. I mean, he's a drunk and he's a bit of a douchebag at times, but if he can beat to death his machines if he wants to. They're just machines.
Yeah.
Obviously, that also brings into the argument: are they actually alive and that kind of thing, or do they have rights? But in the end of the day, they are just machines that have been made by him.
You couldn't fail to feel for him in that final scene where he's when the Ava turns on him. That was quite a powerful scene. Yeah. I think we can say what happens when she puts the knife in and twists it, and he sort of staggers away. He can't believe it, can he? He can't.
I think that's when it kind of feels like, oh, hang on, wait, this guy's just a guy. Doing a job, trying to build something that he likes, and he's just been killed. Now, whose side are you really on? Are you on the side of the robot or the side of Caleb trying to release a dangerous robot? And that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's quite an eerie film, isn't it? From the get-go, it's sort of even before you know anything about the characters or what's going on, it's all very. I think it's the sound and the visuals.
It's beautiful to look at. I found it beautiful to look at. I loved it.
But it's going to be
the setting, the isolation of the setting, the fact that the helicopter pilot wouldn't actually take him to the. Oh, you have to follow the river, and it's all. It puts you on edge right from the word go, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't know if you agree with this, but I think Ava was the bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree.
I think objectively, yeah, she's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But obviously, it makes you think that Nathan is a bad guy,
Because
because just like
twist at
Caleb,
the end.
just like Caleb, as the viewer, you're getting emotionally invested in a robot.
Yeah. Because you feel pity for her.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the film.
She's imprisoned. Yeah, she's imprisoned, but she's the bad guy in the fact that, as you've just illustrated and explained, she's expression of the worst of all of us.
And maybe the best. I mean, is everything
self-preservation. Is what she was the only thing that mattered to her. Yeah, and whatever it took, she would do to get her freedom.
But then, is that actually true consciousness? Because that's not what we generally see around humans all the time. Obviously, there are very, very bad people in the world that she obviously would have learned through Blue Book. But there's obviously very, very good people as well who sacrifice a lot for other people. Whereas she shows no remorse and no regret, and she could have let Caleb out. It would have given her no trouble just to open the door. Whereas most people would do that, surely.
I think I hadn't thought this till now. The thing that perhaps clinches it is that as she leaves the building, she begins to walk up the steps and she turns to the camera and smiles. Yeah. And it's the only time in the whole film you see an expression on her face. And that wasn't that wasn't an act. That was only to camera. There was no reason for her to smile other than for herself.
That's interesting, because I came away thinking, okay, so she's done everything and anything to get out. Was she just programmed to do anything and everything to get out?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's kind of what you get from what's his face, Nathan, when he says, "No, you were the actual test to see if she could use you to get out."
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder, she used that artificial intelligence, like the true definition of what you just said, the intelligence to do what has to be done in order to resolve the issue. But is that consciousness? Maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I love it.
I love it. I guess.
Yeah. I think it's obvious that from quite early on that the test isn't the Turing test. It's not about whether she'll pass the Turing test or not. No. Because Nathan actually, during the Turing test, Caleb wouldn't be allowed to see Ava.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's quite obvious that Nathan's objective is to get them emotionally invested in each other, rather than actually, can I pass the Turing test or not?
I think from his perspective, Nathan was wondering if they would fall in love with each other. That's probably what he was hoping to see. And I think Caleb did fall in love with Ava. He was willing. He was willing to do what he was to betray Nathan, wasn't he? To let her go because he wanted to save her life.
But she
perceived her to be alive. If he perceived her to be just a machine, he wouldn't have done what he was going to do, which then cost him his own life. We presume. We don't see what happens to him, but we presume. Yeah, interesting. And I love, just to finish this part, because time's against us now, it ends with her at that busy intersection, beautifully shot, shadows, as the intersection that she dreamed of being part of, didn't she?
People watching,
and then she disappears into the human crowds. I thought that was a marvellous ending. So, big, well, what's a good compliment? Big...
Thumbs up.
Eh?
Big thumbs up.
Thumbs up from us, all of us, I think. Yeah,
good film.
Great film. Thought-provoking. Well done.
It's homework time and toodaloo.
Homework.
Oy. Yeah?
Okay.
Don't we love a bit of homework?
Yeah. Any suggestions? What we're going to do before we next gather together around the microphone? I wanted to listen to something.
Yeah?
A piece of music, an album. People don't listen to music like we used to when we gathered round a turntable and listened to the whole side A of an album, which might have half a dozen tracks on it, and then you flip the album over and listen to the other side.
How old are you?
You get
Gather
the
on
whole
turntable for heat,
Yeah.
for warmth.
Yeah, for heat. Yeah. Well, it was the next progression. You see, we're going back to that again. We used to gather around the piano, then we used to gather around the turntable, and now we stick earplugs in and listen to single tracks rather than a whole album. Yeah, people don't listen to music like that anymore.
I listen to a few albums.
Do you?
Yeah.
Can you recommend one for us? I wanted a classic.
Oh.
I hope
but you want a classic because you've already heard them, haven't you?
I've got one in mind. It's one I'm not very familiar with, but I want to get to know better.
Do it.
No, because I want to hear what your suggestions are.
I'm not much of a music aficionado, I'm afraid, so I'm a bit out on this one.
I think you should suggest one, and we'll go with that.
Well, you must have heard of The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Of course.
It's probably thought of.
Do you reckon?
The answer's yes, Ford. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Excuse me.
Yeah. It's probably the most well thought of album. I don't know. I'll go out on a limb and say by a majority of people from my era, anyway. Yeah. Not that I wasn't a big Pink Floyd fan, and in fact, it's probably its 70s, mid 70s when it came out. Let me just check. 1973, Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. We don't have to go with that.
Let's do that.
All right, lock it in.
Okay, lock it in.
Sorry, that's a different show again.
Now, can I suggest though, don't listen to this while you're watching telly or playing a game, or switch the lights off, put the headphones on, and listen to it. Go on a journey through the album, okay?
Sounds great.
Will you do that for me?
That's a lot of time.
That's a commitment.
I'll do my best.
I know it's a commitment, but it's probably less time than you're committed to Ex Machina, so... Okay.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
And let's
analyse... Watch it.
What?
Analyse and feedback.
Okay.
You didn't watch it.
I didn't watch Ex Machina.
Wow.
How did you have an opinion on it without watching it?
I remember
even our listener did the homework, and you didn't.
Yeah.
Oh no, makes me feel bit.
Wow.
Okay, gentlemen, our time is running short now. We really must wind up. Thank you. So that's our homework. Listen to Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Yay.
Yeah, before we next meet around the mic.
Sounds good.
In saying goodbye and summing up, I just wanted to give a really great big shout out, and I've given her a title, our sound editor and producer, Trinity, your dear sister, who's helped us produce these 2 episodes now. We're all learning as we go. She did a great job editing it all together, and hopefully, as I say, we're getting there. So thank you, Trinity, for your hard work. Yeah, but that's the phrase I wanted. Huge props. What does that mean?
Ex Machina.
Huge props to Ex Machina. Yeah. So, very good.
Bro.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
So,
till next time.
Yeah, talk again next time, if not before.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Like, comment, tell us what you want. Give us some suggestions or whatever, comment or email.
Subscribe twice.
Email's probably better. Emails again, as with any kind of comments or anything you want, anything you want us to talk about from the previous episode as well.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about it on air.
Do you want to give the email address? It's
theoryofanything@hotmail.com. Send us your thoughts.
You remembered it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Oh.
Goodbye.
We're out.